Here is a quick video tutorial about how to do the Kumihimo braids that I've been doing. We have a bunch of different types that I've been learning with. At first, this was just something that I put together for craft day. And so I have this nice 2mm braid that I put together with some plums and purples and gold and silver. And then I just got a magnetic clasp for that. And so that is the way that I started. And then I wanted to do some more fine detail, smaller cords, just so that they wouldn't, you know, if there was more threads, wouldn't be like so chunky. So this is 8 cords per braid, but so is this one. So depending on what you start with, either the 2mm cord or the 1mm cord, or you know, some of the paracord come in between. This is just rat tail and bug tail and mouse tail and whatever nylon satin cord you can get. Mostly I only see the 2mm at the craft stores, but the 1mm is what I like, and I've been getting it from a variety of Etsy shops. So you would need that. You will need a Kumihimo disc, which sometimes I've seen just made out of a piece of cardboard or paper plate or foam core, mat board, something that you can just notch out the sides of. I recommend you start with an 8-cord bracelet or braid, whatever you're gonna do with it, key lanyard, whatever you're gonna make out of it. 8 seems to me the easiest. There are braids for 3, 6, up to, you know, in the 40s, depending on how complicated you want to get. Kumihimo is an old braiding technique, which can be flat, it can be round, it can be hollow. Here's one of the ones that I've been making that's hollow, and so this is the starting for that. And I find this a little bit more challenging, so I haven't done as much of this one. And then you'll need some bobbins or a way to kind of like let the tails be wound up. These guys are kind of self-tensioning with this type of cord. You would open them up, fill them, and then snap them back, kind of like the cord wranglers that you'd see for an office building. And so these, you know, like as you're going, you can just quickly give yourself a little bit more slack. You know, you want to keep them kind of organized so that you're not constantly combing them out. I find that sometimes when you're doing with bracelet length, you know, you might not need to wind them all up on the bobbins. And then you'll need some sort of a weight. I've started using the actual clasp that I'm gonna have on the bracelet or the cord. So this is just a swivel lobster clasp. So you'll need a weight, something to kind of like hold it down. They sell the ones kind of, you know, designed for it, just an alligator clip with a hunk of metal. But you could use, you know, just this is a pipe fitting. I've started with large nuts from leftover demos at work. I've seen bag of pennies. So that's kind of it. You need a disc, you need your cord, you need a weight, and probably the bobbins. So here I have some cord that Eric had laying around from some, you know, non-fading, non-stretch marine cord. And I'm doing this with some of the bigger bugtail stuff. This is actually 1.5mm. This is the 8-cord warp. So you'd want to start with a knot right at the end, or in my case, the lobster clip. And then most of the length is going to be on the outside of the disc. Back to the disc. I've got my north, south, east, and west. I've got these colors placed so that the two will be right next to each other, making these little hash dots. And then the way you end up braiding is very simple. Just you go from, I'm always on my right, take it from the right side of the whole setup down to the right side of the whole setup, and then you're going to do the same thing on the other side. So I'm going to take this guy, I'm going to put it right there. I'm going to take this guy and put it right there, and that's it. When you're starting out, you might not want to remember which braids you can go to and fro with and which ones that you have to keep in your clockwise or counterclockwise. So that's not a bad idea to just kind of keep going around. But this is really it for the 8 chord. My new favorite ones with these 3 groupings, and you can see here, this red right here was the last one that went over top, which means that the one right next to it that is underneath, that's the next one to go. And this one with the 3 grouping is the same thing. You're just taking the one that is on this side of the north and going just to this side of the south. And then this guy goes up like that, and then like that, like that. Depending on how many colors you have, you can get kind of this argyle harlequin design. And then for bracelets, you can, do just a loop and a button. I've wanted to do some that were more adult and intentional looking, that could be gifts. Regular lobster clasp. I've tried to integrate some hardware, marine hardware into them. At times that's, proved to look kind of cool, but maybe has been challenging to figure out what to do with the other end, just based on what hardware is available. And then this little snap ring. That would clasp it like that. So still kind of working through with what hardware is available and what I want them to look like. This might be nicer if there was some texture to this so that it didn't just kind of like slide around when you were trying to hold it in place, so that with your whatever dominant hand, that this thing isn't just kind of like popping around, so that you didn't always have to have somebody help you put your stuff on. And then there's these glue-in caps with like a swivel lobster clasp. And then the last kind of clasp that I have is the bayonet clasp. This is just kind of like a little plungery thing. So the last thing that I wanted to show you is this website, 2 websites, friendshipbracelets.net and Craft Design Online. The first one that I found was this one, which I found through Pinterest. And if you see here the tabs, home, pattern, generate, tutorials, the tab that I've been using here is the patterns. And then right underneath there, the second one in, go to Kumihimo patterns. So you can put in how many colors you want to start with, 3 to 5, or you can put 3 to 3 if you only have 3 colors. You select your number of strings, and then I like to see the pattern with photos. You can sort by any of those choices that you want. And then you apply that, and it's going to show you previous users' versions of those patterns. And one of the things that I like about choosing it with photos is that you can go and see what some of these things look like in real life. So sometimes the drawing, has a different look because it's just a line drawing as opposed to what it actually looks like with fade colors, with ombre colors of all the same hue, with, all the varieties of qualities of photos that people have. So it'll then tell you where to place your strings. You're always going to have 2 at the top, so even if it looks like there's 1 black section there, that's 2 at the top. And then the other thing that I like is if you're in the gallery, and again, I'm going to select in this gray bar here only on Kumihimo. If you select one of these photos anywhere along the line, you can go to that picture, and right above the photo there it says go to the pattern in that gray bar. So you go right to the pattern, it'll show you've got 16 strings, you've got 3 colors. and where to place those cords on your wheel in order to get that pattern. And then this one has other people who did this same pattern, so you can see what it turned out looking like. So this website, I've been using it like that. Craft Design Online I found a little bit later, and I had an interesting time trying to figure this out. At first I thought that I wouldn't be able to use this on the iPad, that maybe it was just a desktop version, because it looked the same as what I had there, but I didn't understand how to use this color wheel that's right below the diagram of the bracelet. And it took me a little while to figure out that I can pick a color close to something that I have the cord for, and then I can actually paint that into the design template and see what that would look like if I was to create a whole new pattern. So I can create my own pattern, either just different colors of the existing pattern or a whole new thing with the colors that I have. What does it look like when I change the different chords? Likewise, if I have 2 chords of each, I can see what that would look like by actually clicking on the chord positions to see where I'm going to put some of these colors. What happens when I place the colors together, or when I place them in different places. So it helps you to learn where you're going to place your colors to get certain patterns. And you could also change the grouping if you have that same color but you want to do a simpler one. Well, now I've only got 2 colors because I reduced the amount of strings. So let's see what happens when I put the greens in there. Where if I put in 1 green, it's going to look like that. And then on this website, Craft Design Online, the other thing that I like is right on this same Kongo Gumi Friendship Bracelets tab is this Choose Your Own Group Size. This one gives you the same tool here with the color wheel, but it allows you to change out not only the number of strings, the number of groups, and the number of strings in groups. So I'm going to click here on the minus next to group size, and I'm going to go to 3 of them. And then I'm going to say I only want 4 groups of 3. And here's what that design will look like. And then I'll pick some of the colors. I'm going to reduce the colors down to the ones that I have. So we've got some reds there. Let's say I want a whole stripe of red. I'm just painting right there on the drawing. And then let's say on this bottom right portion of the bracelet design, I've made a diamond color just based on where that weave is going to go in the next row. It's not going to line up as much of an argyle as some of the other string patterns would allow. And then you can experiment and say, well, what if I had 5 of those groups? This pattern is going to throw in some of those other default colors. So you can blank those out and then go back and try to paint and see if there's any placement that'll get you to the kind of pattern that you're trying to make. So I found this one very helpful once I realized that I could in fact alter the colors on my iPad and play with those parts of the app. So here I have the pattern as I'm going to lay it out on my actual disc. And I've chosen my colors and I've got the right grouping that I want. This website will allow you to, right here on these brown ovals, I'm going to click on disc and it'll show you where to move your strings to and from and how to turn your disc. All the ones that I'm doing are the basic pattern that you saw me do earlier. So that doesn't really change anything here, but some of the braids in different patterns, if I click on this 16 thread octagonal, some of these patterns are going to have you going in different directions in kind of more sequence of moves as opposed to a move and then a turn in the same direction. So I haven't really played with too many of these yet. So I'm just basically on this Congo Gumi, which is bookmarked up in the top corner here on Craft Design Online. So this is the website that I've been using the most. This Congo Gumi friendship bracelets, and this one right here, friendshipbracelets.net. So that's all I wanted to share with you for now. My very beginning understanding of this craft, which is really got a lot of options, a lot of varieties, and I hope that you tag me in pictures of stuff that you make, and that, you know, maybe I hope that you don't get quite as addicted as I have gotten, but that you enjoy yourself.